It's that metal cover guy here, and today's video isn't going to be a cover. It's going to be I guess, a tutorial on how to scream. Because I know there's a lot of people out there who would like to know. I mean, I don't consider myself to be the best by far, but I'd say I'm a little bit above average. But I mean, it's not really like, that's just my opinion. And if people like how I scream, then that's cool. But yeah, so let's start out with the basics. Now, one thing I did when I first started screaming, I kind of taught myself, essentially. I always used my throat, and that is never a good thing, because if you use your throat, the only time you want to use your throat is when you're trying to change from, like, if you're trying to do a high scream, then you'll have your throat in like a different position, but if you're trying to do a low scream, then you'll have it in a position that's like different from doing a high, obviously. But yeah, don't try to don't tense up your throat when you're screaming, because that'll make your throat hurt, and if anything is hurting at all, then you're not doing it right. If anything's ever hurting when you're screaming, you just need to stop and take a break. This break can be anywhere from like a few hours to even just maybe 1 or 2 days, depending on how much it hurt, and like just I guess depending on how fast your body heals. But yeah, so don't scream from your throat. Don't tense up your throat, because that's gonna cause it to hurt, and you could potentially severely damage your voice if you do that. And next would be to always drink like room temperature water is what I've always drank whenever I'm just like practicing or whatever. And the reason you want it to be room temperature is because that's if you're drinking cold water, then it'll tighten up your throat, and when you're screaming, it's a muscle. It's just like every other muscle. You need to keep it loose. So when you're screaming, you want it to be as loose as possible, not all tight and clenched up, because that'll restrict your range, and it'll severely restrict your power behind your screams. So I'd say about room temperature water. That's probably the best way to go. But I've heard people that say they drink milk or sodas or whatever. I mean, I've always gone with water, and that's always what's worked for me. So I guess just go with whatever works for you. Always use your diaphragm. And the way you can tell where your diaphragm is, or like how you're using your diaphragm, is I was taught I was taught that. So there's a breathing technique you can do. Now you see how I breathe? How when I breathe like that, my shoulders and my chest went up. That is not using your diaphragm. When you breathe with your diaphragm, you want your stomach to expand, and not your chest. You don't want your chest or anything up here to move at all. So that's how you can tell where your diaphragm is. And then once you located your diaphragm, when you're screaming, is you want to, like, I guess, sort of like flex it and push out through your mouth. And that's how you get all your power and volume out of your screams. And I guess that's about it. So I guess I can do some examples of some screams that using all those, I guess, techniques or tips or whatever. Alright, so this is just like standard high scream, I guess. Yow! And this is more of what I do on a regular basis. I prefer to do lower screams for the most part in songs. I guess if you watch this video and you want to scream, just practice over and over. Do these things every time before you scream. That's about it. I'll see you guys in the next one.